If I had known that day was the beginning of a story I would carry with me for the rest of my life, I would have looked at her longer. I would have memorized the way the light fell across her face, the calm rhythm of her breathing, the quiet confidence in the way she sat. But I didn't know. Back then, it felt like just another lecture, another ordinary morning in a semester filled with endings no one wanted to admit were coming. The final semester of university never announces itself properly. It doesn't arrive with drama or warnings. It just begins, slipping into your life while you're still pretending everything is permanent. You tell yourself there's time. Time to decide. Time to speak. Time to feel later. And so you live as if later is guaranteed. That morning, the lecture hall smelled like spring. Open windows, soft air, the distant noise of the city reminding us that life was waiting outside these walls. Students talked about deadlines, final projects, job interviews, cities they planned to move to. Everyone sounded confident, like they already knew who they were about to become. I didn't. I sat near the window, staring at nothing in particular, thinking about how strange it felt to be almost finished and still unsure. I had spent years preparing for this moment, and yet the closer it came, the more unstable everything felt. Like standing at the edge of something too big to name. Then she sat down next to me. No dramatic slow motion. No sudden music. She just asked if the seat was free. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. I nodded, moved my bag, and that was it. But something shifted. Quietly. Like a door opening somewhere inside me that I didn't know existed. She wasn't the kind of person who demanded attention. You could miss her if you weren't paying attention. But once you noticed her, it was hard to look away. There was something grounded about her, something steady, as if she wasn't racing toward the future the way everyone else was. The lecture started. The professor spoke, slides changed, pens scratched across paper. I pretended to take notes, but my focus kept drifting toward her. The way she wrote neatly in the margins. The way she paused, thinking, before underlining certain words. She looked present, but also distant, like someone carrying a quiet world inside her. After class, we walked out together, carried by the slow-moving crowd. She made a comment about the lecture, something light, something easy. I replied. It wasn't forced. It wasn't awkward. Just natural, like we'd spoken 100 times before. That should have been the end of it. A week later, we were assigned the same project. A coincidence. A small administrative detail. Nothing that sounded important. But it changed everything. We started meeting in the library, choosing a table near the back, away from the noise. At first, we worked mostly in silence. A comfortable silence. The kind that doesn't pressure you to fill it. Time behaved differently with her. Hours slipped by unnoticed. Coffee cups emptied and went cold. The sun disappeared from the windows before we realized it was evening. Sometimes we'd look up at the same moment and smile, both aware that we had lost track of time again. We talked about simple things. Childhood memories. Favorite places. Small disappointments. We avoided the future without saying so. It was an unspoken agreement. As long as we stayed in the present, nothing could be lost. I began noticing details. The quiet laugh she tried to hide. The way she bit the end of her pen when she was thinking. The slight pause before she answered personal questions. That's when I knew it was dangerous. Because noticing details means you're already emotionally invested, whether you admit it or not. Still, neither of us said anything. Whatever was growing between us didn't rush. It didn't demand clarity. It expanded slowly, filling space without asking permission. At first, I just wanted to sit next to her. Then I wanted to stay longer. Eventually, I noticed the absence when she wasn't there. One evening, we left the library late. The city was quiet, streets shining after rain, streetlights reflected in shallow puddles. We walked side by side, not touching, but close enough to feel each other's presence. There was something hanging between us, a question neither of us dared to ask. At her dorm entrance, she stopped. Looked at me for a moment too long. As if she was waiting. As if she was hoping I would say something brave. I smiled instead. Wished her good night. She smiled back. I stood there long after she went inside, aware of a feeling I couldn't name yet. Fear, maybe. Not of her, but of what would happen if I let myself want more. The ending was already approaching. Graduation. Distance. Change. We both knew it, even if we never spoke about it. But the most powerful stories often begin when time is already running out. And we had no idea how deeply this quiet beginning would mark us both. After that night, everything felt the same, and yet nothing was. We didn't talk about what almost happened outside her dorm. We didn't replay it out loud or acknowledge the silence that had followed us home. Instead, we returned to the routine, pretending nothing had shifted, even though both of us felt it. The library became our place again. Same table. Same hours that slipped away unnoticed. But now, the air between us was heavier, charged with thoughts we kept swallowing. Every shared glance lasted a second longer. Every smile carried something unspoken. It was no longer just comfort, it was awareness. I started arriving earlier, without admitting why. She did too. Sometimes she was already there when I came in, headphones on, hair loosely tied, completely focused. Seeing her like that brought an unexpected calm, like my day only really began once she was in it. We talked more. Not deeper yet, but wider. Music. Late night thoughts. Things we never shared with classmates. She told me she was afraid of staying in one place too long. That she had already applied for opportunities in another city. Maybe another country. She said it lightly, but her fingers tightened around her coffee cup when she spoke. I nodded, pretending it didn't matter. But it did. The closer we got, the clearer the ending became. Graduation deadlines were posted on notice boards. Friends spoke about goodbye parties. Parents called more often. Life was gently, relentlessly pushing us forward. One afternoon, we skipped the library and walked through campus instead. Trees were blooming, petals falling onto the paths like quiet reminders that nothing stays. She kicked at the ground as she walked, hands in her pockets, unusually quiet. Do you ever feel like this is the last time we'll be this version of ourselves? She asked suddenly. I looked at her, surprised by the honesty. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say I was afraid of losing this, of losing her. Instead, I smiled and said, I think every version feels like that in the moment. She didn't respond right away. Just nodded. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her words, her pauses, the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I realized I was falling, slowly but undeniably. And the worst part was knowing I might be falling alone. The next time we met, something broke through the surface. We were sitting close, working on final edits for the project. Our shoulders brushed. Neither of us moved away. The room felt too quiet, like it was waiting. She looked up at me. Why does this feel harder than it should? She asked. I swallowed. Because we're pretending it's simple. Silence stretched between us. Honest. Vulnerable. I don't want this to just disappear after graduation, she said softly. That was it. The moment I had been avoiding. The truth I had been afraid to hear. I don't either, I admitted. Her breath caught. She smiled, but her eyes were uncertain. Then what do we do? I didn't have an answer. None of us ever do when feelings arrive at the wrong time. But something changed after that conversation. We stopped pretending. We didn't label anything, but we allowed closeness. Long walks turned into late dinners. Studying turned into talking until sunrise. One night, as we sat on a bench overlooking the city, she rested her head on my shoulder. No words. No promises. Just presence. And in that quiet moment, I knew, this wasn't temporary to my heart, no matter how temporary life made it. But deep down, I also knew something else. Love doesn't ask if the timing is right. It arrives, stays, and leaves you to deal with the consequences. And ours was only just beginning. From the moment we stopped pretending, everything accelerated. Not in a reckless way, but in the way you walk faster when you realize the road is shorter than you thought. We didn't call it love. We didn't define what we were. We simply chose each other, day by day, as if the present was the only thing we could afford. We started finding excuses to be together outside of routines. Coffee turned into dinners. Dinners turned into long walks that had no destination. Sometimes we sat in silence, sometimes we talked until our voices grew tired. Neither felt empty. With her, even quiet had weight. She told me about her childhood home, about how she learned early not to get too attached to places. I told her about my fear of being left behind, of watching people move on while I stayed frozen in the same spot. We were different in the ways that mattered, and maybe that's why we understood each other so well. There were moments that felt suspended in time. Late nights on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by notes and unfinished thoughts. Shared playlists playing softly in the background. Her laughter filling spaces I didn't know were empty before her. I caught myself memorizing these moments, as if some instinct was telling me to store them carefully. But reality never stays quiet for long. Deadlines grew heavier. Conversations about the future became unavoidable. She received an email one afternoon and didn't speak for a long time after reading it. When she finally looked up, her eyes were bright with excitement and fear. "I got accepted," she said. Another city. A real opportunity. Everything she had worked for. I smiled first. Proud. Happy for her. That's what love does, right? Then the weight of it settled in. We talked that night longer than ever before. Not about logistics, not about solutions. Just about what it would mean. Distance. Time. Change. The unknown. Every option felt fragile. Every path had a cost. "I don't want us to become something we regret," she said. "I don't want us to disappear like we never mattered," I replied. There was no fight. No raised voices. Just two people facing the truth that wanting each other doesn't always mean you get to keep each other. As graduation approached, the days felt both full and fleeting. We clung to routines, knowing they wouldn't last. We took photos we pretended were casual. We laughed louder, touched more often, like our bodies were trying to compensate for what words couldn't promise. One evening, standing under streetlights after rain, she looked at me and said, "Promise me we won't pretend this wasn't real." I didn't hesitate. "I promise." We kissed then, not like a beginning, but like something precious and fragile. A kiss filled with awareness. With gratitude. With loss already hidden inside it. Love, I learned, doesn't always come to stay. Sometimes it comes to teach you how deeply you can feel in a short amount of time. And even knowing how this would end, I would have chosen her again. Because some loves are worth the ache they leave behind. The closer we got to graduation, the more carefully we loved each other. Not cautiously, tenderly. Like people handling something fragile, aware it could break at any moment. There was no urgency anymore, no desperate need to decide the future. Instead, there was a quiet agreement, we would be fully present while we still could. Our days became smaller and more meaningful. Morning coffee before classes. Short messages sent just to say I'm here. Even ordinary moments felt heavy with significance, as if we both understood they would soon belong to memory. She started packing slowly. Not all at once, but in stages. A box here. A suitcase there. Every folded shirt felt like a countdown. I watched without commenting, afraid that acknowledging it would make it more real. We avoided the question everyone else kept asking. "What's next for you two?" We smiled. Changed the subject. People assumed answers existed. They didn't know that sometimes love doesn't come with a plan. One night, we sat on the floor of her room, surrounded by half-packed bags. The air felt still, almost respectful. She traced patterns on the carpet, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared that once I leave, I'll forget the sound of this place. Of us." I took her hand. "You won't. Some things stay, even when everything else changes." She leaned into me then, and for a moment, the world narrowed to the space between our breaths. We didn't need to speak. The silence understood us better than words ever could. Graduation day arrived too quickly. The campus was crowded with families, laughter, cameras capturing moments people wanted to freeze forever. We stood in our gowns among hundreds of others, but somehow, I only saw her. When our eyes met across the crowd, it felt like a private conversation no one else could hear. After the ceremony, we found each other away from the noise. She pressed her forehead to mine, eyes closed, as if committing the moment to memory. "This version of us ends today," she said. "Yes," I replied. "But it existed. That matters." The days that followed were strange. A quiet in-between. No classes. No structure. Just time slipping through our fingers. We spent it together without expectations. No promises. No lies. On her last night, we walked through the city one final time. Streets we had learned by heart. Corners filled with laughter, late nights, beginnings. We stopped where we had once stood in silence, months earlier, unsure of what we felt. She looked at me the same way she had that night, waiting. This time, I didn't look away. We held each other without rushing, knowing that some goodbyes don't need words. When she finally stepped back, her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "Thank you for loving me the way you did," she said. "Thank you for letting me," I answered. As she walked away, I understood something painful and true. Some love stories don't end because love fades. They end because life keeps moving. And learning to let go is sometimes the deepest form of love there is. After she left, the world didn't collapse. That surprised me the most. I had expected something dramatic, some clear sign that everything had changed. Instead, life continued with a quiet indifference. The city woke up. People rushed to work. Coffee shops opened their doors. Only I seemed to notice the absence she had left behind. The first days were the hardest because everything still felt recent. Her cup was still in my cupboard. Her scent lingered on my jacket. My phone remained face down more often than not, as if avoiding the silence could delay its reality. I told myself this was temporary. That time would soften things. But grief doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it settles in gently and refuses to leave. I started noticing how often I reached for her without realizing it. A thought I wanted to share. A song she would have loved. A moment that needed her laughter. Each time, the realization hit the same way, soft, but deep. We texted at first. Short messages. Careful words. Proof that we still existed in each other's lives. But conversations grew slower. Time zones made pauses longer. Life filled the gaps. We both pretended not to notice the distance stretching between our sentences. I told myself this was what maturity looked like. Letting go without drama. Loving without holding on too tightly. Some nights, I believed it. Other nights, I lay awake replaying everything. Wondering if different choices could have changed the ending. If courage earlier would have meant permanence later. These thoughts never led anywhere, but they returned anyway. One evening, weeks after she left, I walked past the library. Our table was empty. Someone else sat there, unaware of the quiet history etched into the space. That's when it truly sank in, our moments didn't leave a visible trace. They lived only in us. She called me once, unexpectedly. Her voice sounded different. Stronger. More certain. She told me about her new city, her routines, the way everything felt unfamiliar but promising. I listened carefully, proud and aching at the same time. "I think about you," she said before hanging up.
"So do I replied.
And that was all. No promises followed. No plans to reunite. Just honesty, fragile and real. Slowly, I began to understand that love doesn't always ask to be carried forward. Sometimes its purpose is to change you, to leave you softer, more aware, more human. She had done that for me. I didn't move on quickly. I didn't replace her. I learned to live alongside the memory, to let it exist without demanding more from it. And in that quiet acceptance, something healed. Not completely. Not perfectly. But enough to breathe again. Time did what it always does. It moved forward, whether I was ready or not. Days stacked into months, months into years, and slowly, life reshaped itself around the space she once occupied. Not by erasing her, but by learning how to exist without her presence in every moment. I changed. In ways that were subtle at first. I became more attentive, more honest with my emotions. I stopped dismissing feelings just because they were inconvenient. Loving her had taught me that connection is rare, and when it appears, it deserves courage, even if it doesn't last forever. Every once in a while, she crossed my mind unexpectedly. In a familiar melody. In the smell of rain on warm pavement. In the quiet confidence of knowing that I had once loved deeply and been loved in return. Those memories no longer hurt the way they used to. They felt warm. Complete. Years later, I saw her again. Not by accident, not dramatically. Just a message. Simple. Thoughtful. She said she would be in the city for a few days and wondered if I wanted to meet. I read it slowly, aware of how calm I felt. No racing heart. No panic. Just a gentle curiosity. We met at a cafe not far from campus. She looked familiar and different all at once. more grounded, more herself. We smiled, and it felt easy. Like two people who shared something real and didn't need to prove it anymore. We talked about our lives, our choices, the paths that had carried us away from each other and toward who we had become. There was no regret in her eyes, no longing in mine. Just respect, and a quiet understanding. Before we parted, she looked at me and said, "I'm glad we had what we did. I wouldn't change it. Neither would I." As I walked away, I realized something that took years to fully understand. Some love stories aren't meant to last forever. They're meant to arrive at the right moment, leave their mark, and prepare you for the person you become afterward. They don't end in bitterness. They end in gratitude. That love, born at the end of our student years, stayed with me, not as a loss, but as proof. Proof that once, at a turning point in life, I loved without conditions, without guarantees, and without regret. And that, I finally understood, was enough. Time passed, and life slowly settled into a new shape. The pain of separation softened, turning into quiet acceptance. What once felt like loss became a lesson, about loving fully, even when nothing is guaranteed to last. Years later, they met again, not as people longing for what was, but as two individuals grateful for what they shared. There was no regret, only respect and understanding. Their love had served its purpose. It changed them, strengthened them, and taught them how deeply a heart can feel. In the end, the story did not close with sorrow, but with gratitude. Some loves are not meant to stay forever. They come to leave a mark, to shape who we become, and to remind us that loving without fear is never a mistake.